Almost every industry was thrown off this year, and the property market was no exception. And with the fall real estate market just around the corner, the biggest question is what is going to happen with our local market and where is it headed for the rest of 2020 with things like mortgage deferrals and other assistance programs coming to an end and a potential second wave happening of the coronavirus. So today, all of this is going to be covered in this episode, so stay tuned. Hey guys, welcome back to a new episode of the weekly Toronto Real Estate Market Update. If you're joining for the first time, my name is Fred and I'm bringing you Toronto's latest market updates and posting other real estate tips if you're looking to get into the market as a buyer or a seller. So if you're new here, hit the subscribe button down below to stay in touch so that you never miss an update. And let's dive right into the content, starting with the biggest question about where is the Toronto property market headed. And to answer that question, I think it's important to reflect on the changes that we've seen ever since when the pandemic first hit Toronto. And at the beginning of all this, buyers and sellers were unsure of whether they should continue with their plans to make a move, which drastically slowed down the market. In fact, the three metrics relied on to determine the health of most real estate markets all came down during the pandemic. Sales dropped in all of Toronto by about 75%, which had a rippling effect on home prices, bringing down prices of freehold homes by 28% and 16% with condos. And because there was a lack of confidence in the market, sellers were not listing their homes for sale, and the number of new listings came down by about 72 and 60% in each respective market segment. But now fast forward to the present day, and the market has adjusted, and both sellers and especially buyers are much more active again compared to just a few months ago. And I think that's because people have become more and more comfortable with the idea of living through this pandemic while trying to maintain some normalcy in their lives. And if you layer on the increased pool of existing homeowners who've been purchasing investment properties thanks to low interest rates, then this creates what's known as pent up demand, a term that you might have heard before. And this is just another way of saying that there is an unusual surge in market activity due to external factors like lower interest rates and buyers suddenly coming out of the woodwork. In fact, the sales of freehold properties from 2 weeks ago were up by about 1% with 414 homes sold, which is right in the average of the last 4 weeks. This consistency in sales is a good sign that the Toronto market is still strong. And if you look back to earlier in the year, you'll notice that sales are higher now more than any time we saw during the pandemic. And this increased activity is linked to buyers taking action regardless of the current pandemic situation, creating that pent-up demand that many realtors and economists talk about. And it's more apparent in the freehold market as condo sales might be softening. Condo sales plateaued in July as they can't seem to reach the same levels now. 2 weeks ago, sales hit 429 units sold, which is lower than the peak in July when we saw 530 units sold in a single week. Okay, so now there are two things that I need to mention. If you look at these numbers and you've watched previous episodes of the weekly updates, first of all, thank you for continuing to watch my videos. And second, you'll notice that I'm not updating on last week's sales numbers, but rather 2 weeks ago. And this was a conscious decision I made because in reality, sales history goes through a bit of a lag for about 1 or 2 weeks, since property sales will often go into a conditional sold status for about a week or two before they're officially sold. The second thing is that condo sales are not keeping up with freehold homes. And it could be that some buyers are realizing that they could benefit from having more space, since working from home is a big thing now. And on top of that, there could be some sort of reevaluating going on of current lifestyles, and maybe things like living downtown in a high-rise with an unobstructed waterfront view or being within walking distance to a specific coffee shop or pub isn't all that important anymore, and they'd rather have more indoor and outdoor space with a new home. And if the price was right to get that much more space, would you consider buying a freehold property instead of a condo? If you can do me a favor and hit the thumbs up if you're gaining value and learning something new from this video, and let me know down in the comments below what you would do. Because home prices were down another 6% with the average sale price at 1.3 million. This is the lowest the average price has been in the last 4 months and is actually coming close to what prices were around the same time last year. So with prices potentially coming down, this could make an excellent opportunity for buyers who are looking into freehold properties instead of the condo market, especially with the Bank of Canada maintaining a low-key interest rate. But that low interest rate is what could also be keeping certain buyers interested in the condo market, especially those who are domestic investors or first-time home buyers with a limited down payment available. Condo prices have been floating around the same average for the past 4 months and have actually come up from the previous week by 5% at $680,000 and have been consistently above prices from last year. So even throughout the pandemic, the Toronto Toronto real estate market has proven to be resilient and has held up in terms of pricing and the number of sales we're seeing every week. And one of the biggest external factors that could impact the market is mortgage deferrals and other government assistance programs coming to an end, because it's possible that the market is artificially propped up right now, but once the assistance programs end, we don't know what kind of recalibration is going to take place throughout the fall and going into 2021. New listings of freehold properties were at their highest last week, with 846 homes listed on the market, making a total of more than 2,600 homes for sale right now. And we don't know how much supply would actually come down if a second wave of coronavirus hit the city, but we have our past and current learning experiences to lean on, which means that buyer and seller confidence shouldn't be impacted as much as it was earlier in spring, and we could continue to see an active fall market. And the following winter season would likely slow down, which is typical during the colder winter months. But for now, it's also possible that the lack of Airbnbs is creating a surplus in condo inventory and causing the rental market to drop. Last week, just under 1,300 condos were listed for sale, which is a 25% increase from the previous week. More and more condos are being listed on the market, with a total number of active condo listings at almost 5,700, which is an increase of 10% in the total number of condos for sale in just 2 weeks. And another reason why we might be seeing so much inventory is that homeowners are relocating to areas outside of the city and into cottage country. Because if you can work from home and have a better quality of life because you don't have to go into the office every day, why not? And it's exactly this mentality that might spark the motivation to sell the house in the city and purchase a cottage as a primary residence instead. But I think one question that some might fail to ask themselves is if this lifestyle is going to be the way of life years down the road. Is this a short-term reaction to a short-term problem? Let me know down in the comments below what you think, because unless you're staying with the same company forever or changing companies that guarantees working from home 5 days a week, it's possible that the best employment opportunities will remain in the city and cause 2-hour commute times in the future for those who moved out of the city. But at least for now, people are still moving, whether that means that they're selling their home to relocate, buying a first home, or making an investment purchase. And this is exactly the activity that the government hopes to see to pave the road to an economic recovery. So even if a second wave hits, I don't foresee the fall market slowing down. And any slowdown in market activity will likely be during the winter months, which is what we would normally expect, and I anticipate a strong real estate market in 2021. Okay, so now here's a quick recap from today's market update. Prices of freehold homes in Toronto are trending down, but it's unclear at this time if this is a trend we'll see that turns this into a bear market. Because while prices are somewhat coming down, buyers are getting into this market segment with confidence and keeping sales high. And since sellers are very active in the market as well, inventory is reaching levels we didn't see earlier this year. With condos, prices have gone up and down, but have been more or less balanced over the last 4 months. The same applies with condo sales, which have also been balanced. And condo supply has been increasing steadily ever since the lowest point during the pandemic. But if a second wave of the coronavirus does in fact hit Toronto, we might see an impact to housing supply, but activity should still remain relatively high since buyers and sellers have learned that the pandemic hasn't slowed down the Toronto real estate market. But the stats are changing every single week, so to stay on top of the changes, subscribe to the channel if you gain value and learn something new, and hit the notification bell so you never miss an update. Thanks for watching to the very end. I appreciate it a lot, and I'll see you guys next week.